Welcome back to Platonically Yours, a podcast exploring platonic love. Today, again, we are recording on the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples, and we want to pay our respects to their elders past and present and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded.
On today's episode, we have, of course, Sami and myself, and a good friend of mine, Michael.
Hi,
Hello.
Michael.
How's it going?
Good. Happy to have you here.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for
excited.
coming on.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into it.
So I'm a born and raised Canberran. I lived here, for 18 years. Then I moved away for uni to become a teacher. And the last couple of years, teaching wasn't working for me, so I've become a play therapist. So I know a lot about child development, which I think I'll kind of bring into the conversation a little bit. And that's... I'm from a family of 3, which we brought up.
Yeah.
And that's how me and Rowena became friends.
So this episode is actually a little bit more personal. It's about a relationship of mine with Michael, obviously. And when I was thinking about how to actually, I guess, hold this conversation, something I thought of was the fact that I didn't really know how to introduce it because it's been such a long relationship. And I think a lot of our experiences together kind of were before we were conscious of a lot of things as well. So I actually asked our parents to give us some statements on how they saw our friendship. And I did take the liberty of trying to combine the statements because that just was the best way of going about it. So I'm going to ask Sami to read it out for us.
Read out what your parents have said about your friendship.
And this is also the first time Michael's heard this. So.
And the first time I'm reading it too. Okay, so they have written... Michael and Rowena's friendship has evolved over the years, growing, shifting, and at times fading as they moved through different stages of life. Yet through it all, they've never lost touch. No matter the distance or life changes, they have consistently made the effort to check in, reconnect, and show up for each other. Their friendship has endured based on a shared sense of chaos, humour, volume, and fun.
Ooh.
Their connection has always felt immediate and effortless, intense in the best way, full of constant conversation and play, grounded in acceptance and genuine care. It also helps that both are the third child in families who have remained friends over the years. It's easy to be friends at school, but quite challenging when the friendship is stretched over preschool, kindergarten, primary schools, different high schools, different colleges, different states and territories, and different careers. And that's without considering the female-male dynamic and tensions. What's clear is that Michael and Rowena's friendship is rooted in shared values, deep understanding, and mutual respect. Although they have followed separate paths, their connection has not just endured, it continues to grow, adapt, and thrive.
How lovely.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Gosh, guys, what a connection.
Yeah.
When I initially read both of them separately, I was tearing up. I was like, I reckon Sami's going to have to read these ones out on the podcast.
So tell me, this is my first time meeting you, Michael.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and I think I have heard about you over the years, but do you want to just, for myself and for the listeners, give us the origin story? So you've known each other for many years, you're saying, through family initially, but paint the picture for us.
Yeah.
So, with the youngest in each family of 3, so our eldest sisters, I don't know if we met because of the elder sisters being in the same year, but I definitely know our middle siblings are in the same year.
Yeah.
So I think I've been told that I met Rowena when she was 6 weeks old.
Yeah.
Because I'm older by probably about
6 months.
6-7 months,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. So yeah, I'm the old one in the relationship. It's hard work being this old. But in that sense that we spent a lot of time together. Our mums are probably the key, I would say.
They also played netball together.
Yeah.
So, I think they have a really strong relationship. And so that has then fostered these relationships between their children. Mm-hmm. I think Michael and my relationship is probably the strongest of all of the siblings. And
easily.
Yeah. But in saying that, I still think there is a mutual respect and whenever our families are in the same room, we haven't been in the same room for a really long time now, but there was always just it was just such a happy atmosphere and just like everyone playing and really enjoying each other's company.
So your families have been really intertwined for a really long time.
Yeah.
Family, friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think it was 6 weeks. Maybe it was, look, let's go with 6 weeks. It sounds better.
It does sound better. Yeah. No, well, it could have been 3 weeks. Who knows?
It could have
But
been.
it probably was 6 weeks because babies can get sick if they're
Yeah.
with other kids.
Even
And so
maybe
you
6
really-
months. But
I don't
could be
I
6.
don't think it would have been though.
No?
I don't think it would have been.
Yeah, okay.
But so you've been spending time together since then, like families kind of bringing
Yeah.
you together,
Yeah.
well,
hanging out from
yeah.
like baby age.
My memory, like some of my key memories are of Rowena's old house, and that was about, I'm going to say about 3 streets away from my parents.
Yeah.
They still live there; they haven't moved, but so they were really close. Like we used to go to like netball,
Yeah.
and I think it's worth mentioning there was a third
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
She
Nadia. We can mention Nadia. Shout out to Nadia. Nadia, we're still in touch with Nadia, so
Yeah,
Another,
good
so
that we
another
mentioned
family
her.
friend.
Another family
kid in the
friend,
mix.
yes.
Yeah, but not nearly as touch. I've kept way more in touch with you than Nadia. So I think our families were a lot tighter and closer than the Nadia.
yeah.
So
yeah.
So can you tell me, from knowing each other from such an early age, did either of you kind of feel a natural comfort around each other because of that?
Mm.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that was pretty easy. I think the line about like loud and chaos from our family is about right. We're pretty loud characters, but we kind of built on it rather than fight for who's going to be the loudest, which sometimes happens with people.
I think it's like excitement.
Yeah.
Like it comes from a place of excitement. Like often when we catch up now, we won't have seen each other for quite a while. And so we'll spend like the whole day together. Or like we'll spend the whole day together and then we'll be like, okay, we should actually catch up like tomorrow to like finish this kind of discussion. And it is like Michael's right, like it's built upon, like it's because like Michael will share something about what's been happening with his life and I'll be like, oh my God, that's so exciting. And like, and then it just gets to that level of like loud, chaotic, just like, yeah, it's
Like
it's
matching
great.
each other's energy.
But I think also like I just never have to try in Michael's presence. Like I'm just with Michael and it's just like, there's no concerns.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if
Yeah.
you feel the same, but it's just
like
like,
a family member.
yeah, it's just like cool. It's
Yeah.
we're together. It feels great. Like there's
I would even argue that it's a funny place because often, like I'd say it's almost beyond a family member in the sense of like sometimes I feel like at least as a family member there's no problems with because we didn't get to a point where there was a big falling out.
No.
There was no issues. Like we didn't have any major conflicts growing up. We just kind of like, Rowena moved primary schools and we just kind of didn't see each other. We didn't have that natural meeting point anymore. And I think that was really interesting when I was reflecting last night was that a lot of friendships are formed and then solidified through natural meeting points. And if you don't have enough of that time to build up to then continue on when you move apart, all those like friendships can fall away where we never did. And
yeah.
And
I think
why not? Like how was that made possible?
I think I just remember from childhood, and like this is relevant to your question, like I just remember Michael always being there. Like I have like a few core memories, and again, like it's like funnily enough, it's about your house. So it's funny that your memories are associated with my house and my memories are associated with your house. But I have a few core memories. But like outside of that, like when I think about my childhood, like I think about my parents and my siblings and I think about like Michael and a few other people, but like mainly Michael and like the times that we would spend together. But I can't tell you like exactly what we do or like anything like that. Like I just remember like there's a few things where I think Michael made me watch like Star Trek or
Star Wars,
which I say to people, I have never watched Star Wars, and to be honest, I couldn't tell you what's in them. But I remember one summer, I think we just watched Star Wars at your house,
There you go.
And I can't tell you the first thing about Star Wars. I got nothing. But I think because it's like that, because it's like he's just always been constant.
Yeah, always around.
I think that helped when we started to drift apart because we were such a strong foundational part of each other's lives from such a young age.
Yeah.
And so I think that really helped. And our parents and our mums like played a huge role in making sure that we did see each other.
Yeah, of course, as you would at that age as well. Like you'd need that support to be able to spend time with someone.
But I think it was probably infrequent going into high school. I would say that we probably had like 1 or 2 big family dinners a year.
Yeah.
We used to have New Year's Eve parties.
Yes, I remember those at Chapman. I mainly remember the one at your house.
I think that was the last one that we did, like the last big one. But we would often do New Year's Eve parties, and it would just like follow, like it would, what's the word? It would like move.
Yeah.
What's the word?
Yeah.
Different people would hold it each year.
Right, yeah.
It was like an annual Christmas party, but
Yes.
different people would hold it. And there was 4 or 5 main families in the mix. And the last one was at our house, which was epic because we still had like disco lights. And I remember just our parents going crazy and like we were just all for it because you had like all these 70s lights like in our living room and we had like the vinyl on and everyone was just like dancing to all this 70s music and it was just like such a fun time. And I think that's also helped our relationship. I feel like Michael said we've never had like a conflict or anything like that. But I think whenever we are together, it's always been fun. And I hadn't really considered that until I read that line that your dad wrote actually about like our friendship being like chaos and fun and like volume and all of those things. And I hadn't really considered it until I read that and I was like, actually, like that is pretty spot on. Like, so yeah. I don't know if that...
I think also building on that, how we kind of kept it, is that often our parents will catch up and they've been catching up and they would just be like, oh, have you reached out to Rowena? Like, have you heard this is happening? And it was a bit of a kick in the butt because, adolescent male or early 20s male, not often thinking about things that aren't in front of them. So often like that, just that little reminder and then that easy ability to go, okay, I'm going back to Canberra. Okay, let's message Rowena. Let's see if we can catch up for a coffee.
Yeah.
And I think I was going to say there was a couple of years, but they were probably COVID years that we didn't see each other. So.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell me about, like, did your relationship change when you kind of hit your teenage years, hit puberty? What did that kind of look like?
I have a take on this, but I'm actually interested in your take on it.
Are you do you want my first? Okay. Yeah, I think it changed. Well, yet again, I think it's the distance was something happening in that space. But I think, puberty, that pressure of like male and female friendships being
what
more.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Yeah.
I remember in year 5 I was asking out girls. In year 5 as an 11-year-old. So I think like socially that expectation, and funnily enough, I remember asking out Nadia. So I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know this.
Nah, so
oh my God.
That weird like, oh my God, I've got to be boyfriend with somebody like pressure.
Yeah, I'm meant to like girls and date them.
I'm meant to date them. And like having older siblings and seeing that kind of model, and obviously they were much old. Like my oldest sister's 5 years older than me, so developmentally so different time period. But you think you're a big grown up in year 6 and year 5, so and hormones are starting. So I think it definitely changed. But I knew there was some points of like change, but I thought, and even though I think they were later in teenager for me,
for me. I would say it yes, but I think it was from a lot of outside
Not
noise.
necessarily that you suddenly were like, am I attracted to them?
Yeah.
Other people being like, ooh, there's a guy that's close to you.
Yeah, and I think like a really good example of this, and this is a few years later, but I think it's still a relevant example. Michael was dating someone at the time and we'd run into each other and then I'd seen your folks maybe a month later, like it was a while ago, and I was like, oh yeah, I bumped into Michael. I think we were both clubbing or something. I know, a rare thing for me. Anyway, but yeah, we were both out clubbing and we bumped into each other, and he was dating someone at the time, and I like briefly met this person.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned it, or maybe it was asked of me by one of Michael's parents. I was like, oh yeah, like whatever. And I think it was your dad that was like, oh, that would have been interesting to like.
And you were like, why?
That would have been like an interesting dynamic to like having her like see you two together.
And how did that feel when he said that?
And I was just like, that's interesting. Like that's an interesting take. And I think I think it is a little bit because I think there's always been like a little expectation from our parents. Not a lot, I would say. Like I don't think there's ever been like pressure or anything for us to like explore dating.
Yeah.
But I think there's just been like an expectation maybe where they're like,
that it could happen.
yeah, where they're like, oh, well, surely.
Yeah.
Like surely eventually. But I hadn't really thought about that. But of course, like things do change. And I think you do have the thought of, and like Michael said it quite well, like you're like, oh, there's now this expectation from the rest of society. But I don't think I was ever like Michael. And I think a big part of that is going back to our childhood, like we were naked all the time. Like,
and it wasn't a sexual thing.
And it wasn't a sexual thing. And
Yeah.
like we honestly, like I feel like when I was starting to learn about my body, I was learning about like the male body through Michael. Like it was like such a interesting thing to look back on now, but I think it's very true. And so I guess it just never, I don't know. What do you think about that aspect of it?
So I've got a memory, and this is this is for viewers, like this is what we learn about as like educators and then like psychoanalyzing like the development of like sex. And in that period of about 3 to 5, it's really normal for boys and girls to actually explore each other's bodies and look at genitals and those kind of things. I remember doing that with Rowena.
Just being like, whoa, another body.
Yeah, what's that? I don't
Yeah.
have that.
So I think that,
Interesting.
and I have a similar memory.
Yeah.
And I think it was very like doctors, nurses kind of vibes. And so like, I just think because of that familiarity, like it may have popped into my mind occasionally, but I don't think it was ever like a me thing. I think it was like there was noise around me.
Like outside expectations.
And then it made me consider it.
Yeah.
But I never felt a weird tension or anything between us in that way.
Which I think.
Well, I'm going to drop something here. I will admit there was one time where I was like, I think I'd been single for a little while, and I think it was...
that was the reason.
Yeah. No, it was just like that, like over-sexualization of people.
Yeah.
And then I think...
Should I?
Yeah, it was like, oh, I'm close with this person. And then I went, no, this is a friend. This is a genuine friendship.
Yeah.
Don't ruin. Like I really cut those thoughts down and just went, no. That's just the hormones getting too much. Oh, I keep tapping the table. Stop that.
Okay. Which really speaks to like the previous episode where we were talking about how like can men and women, straight men and women, be friends?
Yeah.
I think it's so natural for those questions to come up and just be like, well, should I consider this person that I have a really good connection with? But it's really interesting that, you kind of both have disregarded them over the years. And I imagine that's what's made it really possible to just like lean into this friendship as like a man and a woman that doesn't see it that way.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think so.
And then I have another thing to add.
Oh, I'm so intrigued.
Well, I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, but I had a relationship up in Newcastle where things went really poorly, and I got given an ultimatum of don't be close friends with any women, please. And my actual thoughts were, I can't do that because I've got a really close friend down in Canberra. This is pretty unreasonable for me to do just to distance someone because of issues we were having.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like outside pressure and thoughts of like men and women can't be friends definitely has played roles in my life of like, oh, you shouldn't be friends with women.
Interesting.
So, and
Oh, Mike, that makes me want to cry.
And so is that because you do just get so much value from the relationship, the friendship?
Yeah, I think it has just been. I think like as we've been talking, I've been rolling through memories that we've been having, and like walking dogs around Mount Arrowang and those kind of things, and like. Yeah, I think the ease of the relationship and that we can talk seriously or we can talk absolute nonsense and that kind of ability. And often what I talk to about some of my other guy friends is that ability to, if you have a really good friendship, but, distance, I've moved around a bit and like you lose like consistency, but then you come back and it's just the same. That's what me and Rowena have. It's that ability to come back and we go, okay, time for an update, and then we can like just chat or like
And you feel like that's something you wouldn't want to go without, like it.
No,
Yeah.
it is like I think really important like to have those connections with people and with a variety of people.
Yeah.
I think
Can
keeps
you speak a bit more
grounded.
to that?
Well, I think like having like I'm someone that really values lots of friendships and like having really close friendships is vital. I think it's that sense of community, and like Rowena was that big part of my life for many years, and those kind of times, those very positive memories of at netball, making mud cakes, all those things you do as a toddler. So I think that positive relationship is super important, and like to lose that. And there's no reason to lose that. It's just distance. So it is just making the effort. Well, at the moment haven't been great, but like 2 to 3 times a year we catch up. So like, and that's all it takes to really try to continue, and then being like valued for like the big moments. Like I'm turning 30 soon and Rowena's going to come. So like those kind of things. So.
Yeah, I think it's also like, and I would just say like, when I have conversations with Michael, I really value it because he kind of knows like the baseline really well of like who I am. So in a way, he can like shine a mirror a little bit like towards me when I'm like a little bit like
Feeling a bit lost.
Yeah. Or like, what was it like one of the last times we caught up? I remember saying something and you being like, oh, you wouldn't have appreciated that, or you wouldn't have appreciated that comment or something. And like, I just felt so seen, which is like invaluable because like I didn't have to, like, I don't have to ever ask from anything with Michael when we're together. Like he just knows how to show up. And I hope that I also know how to show up for Michael. And I think in our adult lives, now that we're, the back end of our 20s, I think both of us have gone through a lot of heavy stuff throughout our 20s. And so I think it's also been nice to be able to like message each other when we've heard of these things through our parents, or just like if we're just checking in to see how things are going, to be like, how are you going with this news? And I think it's nice, and we don't have to necessarily get into it or like get buried into it. But I think it's nice just to be able to know that like I could talk to Michael about those big things, and I never feel like it's an inconvenience for him maybe to hear about it, if that makes sense.
Exactly. But there's no pressure to tell is really important, because sometimes like people feel out of the loop of friendships, but I think we've got the understanding that, it's very hard to be in someone else's circle all the time. Like you're going to miss stuff. So it's really easy to go, okay, let's just catch up. Oh, like, yeah, I missed this information. Do you want to talk about that, and kind of go back to that point? So I think that's really valuable in that friendship, is that like in the sense of like comparing it to like I'm thinking about it similar to a family, but like I think family has that expectation that you should be telling like big things constantly, where there is no expectation. But there is that option always. So,
and I think it's like often when things happen, like Michael will be one of the first people that I'll be like, oh, I should tell Michael about that.
Why?
I don't know. I actually can't explain it. It's just like an intuition thing. And I don't always. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I'll tell Michael about that. And then like I never do. But it's just like it just pops up in my head, which I think is really interesting.
And so, Rowie, kind of coming back a little bit to this male-female friendship that our listeners have asked us about, like, you know, how do you do it and kind of what can you maybe gain from it? I mean, it sounds like how do you do it is you just have a really long history, the two of you, and that's kind of what's made it really possible, more so than anything else. But I would love to know what you feel like you really gain from maintaining a friendship together.
Yeah. Well, I would like to say that I have a lot of other male friends, and I don't think I would have, and some of them I have been intimate with, and I don't think that I would have maintained those friendships without having the example of Michael and I. And I think that's a really big point. I think Michael grew up in a family with two sisters. So I think that also adds to this because I think Michael kind of had an understanding. But then we were also growing up at the same time. But I think Michael had a lot of like feminine energy around him from really young. And so I think that made him very empathetic and very like caring. And so I think when I have examples like that, and I think my brother is very similar in that way, but when I have examples of that in my life, including our fathers actually, it just makes me a better human being. Like it just makes me really empathetic and it makes me able to, I guess, understand what it's like in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
And if a man does like a shitty thing, I'm always like, okay, but hold on. And like, I'm always like go into my head. I'm like, what would my brother, what would Michael, you know, like how are their brains thinking about this situation? And so I think that's what it's brought me.
Yeah.
And so it gives me a lot more patience and I think also a lot more forgiveness to some of the men in my life. Because I'm
through
able,
like understanding men more through your close connection.
I'm able to understand how they're thinking.
Yeah.
Which I think is really valuable.
Do you also feel that way about kind of an insight into women through Rowie?
That's a really good question. I've never thought about it from that perspective.
Which I think is also very male.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you described, like, I'm now in a very empathetic job. I am a very empathetic male. I understand, I had two older sisters. I'd probably say more my understanding comes from older sisters. So Rowena,
okay.
Growing up two older sisters, you learn quick. And
I mean, and that's a platonic love relationship as well.
Yeah.
With your sisters.
Yeah, it is. It can be complicated. So I think being youngest is always an interesting dynamic, I think. And then I think there was lots of factors in my childhood in that sense. But I think in terms of me and Rowena, I think, it's a really good question. I think I just get, it's that connection back to childhood that I do really value. I still have other friends from primary school as well. I think it has made me really able to make friendships with women. I work
just having it as a baseline.
Yeah, it's a baseline. It was the people who I made friends with first in the world through my sisters and yourself and Nadia. They were probably all, that was all my first relationships, probably for the first, let's say 5 years of my life. So that ability, I work in industries dominated by women. So that ability to actually have a positive relationship is really important.
Absolutely.
And then I think on top of that, removing the sexualization of women, that
those expectations
definitely happens. And just being able to go, no, once you see the person, it's super easy to dismiss all those thoughts. And look, as a man, they definitely appear. So I think that's something it feels weird saying out loud, but I think, and I'm trying not to paint myself too horrible here, but I think the more you have opportunities to form relationships that are not based on that fundamental sexual, and it is a natural urge because it is how our species has survived. So to kind of not ignore it, but to have relationships beyond that is super important. And it does give you, I think, it does give you better insight, and you can have conversations in that sense that don't just get male perspective. And often if you can get, we talk about echo chambers and those kind of things, that often you can get the same advice that's very similar. So it's good to break out and have different perspectives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that feeds us really nicely into the last question that we want to ask you, which we ask all of our guests, and that is, what does platonic love mean to you?
Yeah, I looked at the question and it was a tricky one straight up for me.
Yeah.
I think firstly I want to kind of talk about just the community, being able to have a relationship. Love is based in relationship. You have to have you don't have to have a positive relationship. Sometimes love's formed out of not so positive relationships, but you have to have a relationship and community. And then to have that platonic love, I have a lot of people in my life that I do love, that is that community feeling, that community connection with different people. And I think the more people you can have connection and relationship and love with, I think the easier it is to get out of places where maybe you're not having a great time, mental health or physical or whatever it is, that the more people you're connected to and more people you have platonic love with, I think it's the more positive you can be. Because maybe a relationship will go sour. And if that's your only form of love, you might go down with it, which is really sad to say. But I think having greater connection and go on, someone saying something negative of you because of what's happened for whatever reason, you go, okay, yeah, I've done something poorly, or this is something to do with this, but I've got examples where I've got a positive relationship and love in my life, and I can continue on. I can learn from that negative experience, but I can still feel love. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Crucial. So well said.
Yeah, thank you.
That wraps us up pretty much.
Cool.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to opportunity to kind of talk about this. I don't think this is ever.
I don't think we've ever had a discussion about
Wow.
this friendship to each other.
Not like this. And then I read some of the question and went, oh, I haven't thought about it like this, like the outside pressure stuff and that. I was like, oh, I haven't thought about that in a very long time. So
Did it feel good?
Yeah, it's nice. I think it's a nice opportunity for me to just, give thanks.
Yeah, reflect, appreciate.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to end this, is that you sometimes don't realize how positive those relationships are. And I think just having this conversation kind of shines a light on how good it is. So.
That's what the whole podcast is about, really.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a beautiful conversation. And thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, where can people find us, Sami?
At Platonically Yours podcast on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube, and Platonically Yours on all of your streaming services, wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, and we'll be back in your ears next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Michael.
Bye.